Hi guys, Robert Graham back here with Scott Watermasysk from Kickoff Labs. How you doing, Scott?
Very good, and you?
Doing pretty good. So today we're going to talk with Scott a little bit about where Kickoff Labs came from, what what they do to get their customers and keep their customers. So Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where Kickoff Labs came from?
Well, first I gotta say I'm impressed you pronounced my last name properly, and I didn't tell you how to do it. So that might be the first time that's ever happened.
Wow, I'm honored.
About me. So again, name's Scott Watermasysk, and I'm one of the two co-founders of Kickoff Labs. So I've worked in software for I don't know, the last 10, 14 years or so. I'll save the long story, but I kind of just accidentally kind of found myself, kind of building software one day, and was like, I might as well do this as a career. I like doing it, and I was, doing it in my free time. For Kickoff Labs itself, my co-founder and I decided at one point we were going to start a company, and we were trying to figure out what we were going to do, in this company. We both had worked at a place that was a great company before this, and we worked together. And we both kind of found ourselves in a position of wanting to leave there. No fault really of their own. They just grew bigger than the type of company we just enjoyed, kind of being part of. It's just as a
Right.
company grows, the company changes, takes on its own personality. And it was just different than the opportunity that both of us were looking to take part of. So we came with a list of about 20 or so things that we thought we could build. Everything from educational apps. We both have young children, so we're like, oh, it would be really cool. It's the classic, kind of develop. We're both, kind of developers at heart, and so it's a classic. All the other educational apps suck, so we can do something better. And
Right.
so we had this long list of things we thought we could do. We both had worked for a while in the kind of social, not going to say social scene, but social software scene, so collaboration and that kind of stuff. And so we knew we kind of needed a break, from that. But we had a whole, like I said, a whole list of things, starting from kind of from that area and moving all the way on to mobile apps that we thought would be interesting to build. And we are just trying to figure out, like, how do which one to build? Like, how do you pick one of 20? They all seem like they're great ideas. And we both have been reading and learning on I guess, some lean development type stuff, but just, kind of idea testing and ideation was a big thing we'd heard before. And so we decided that, one of the ideas, I think the idea name was something like splashpages.com or something like that, which obviously isn't, no domain like that is available. But that was the kind of general concept was, the general concept was based upon, I don't know if you've read a 4 Hour Body by Tim Ferriss, and then Rob Walling had an interesting book too called "Start Small, Stay Small." I think was the title. And
Hmm.
in both books, they talked about the idea of doing Google AdWords, kind of testing. So so you start a small AdWords campaign. If you can get a certain number of people to click on a link and potentially sign up or click a buy button, kind of verify ideas. And so our initial thought was, could we productize that? Could we make it so you could test ideas out like that, in a cost-effective and kind of simple way. And so we had this list of 20 ideas, and so we said, let's build, let's try to build a product that would help us test these ideas. And worst case scenario, right? If Kickoff Labs is a colossal failure and nobody signs up, nobody pays us or anything, at least we'll have a product that will help us test the other 19 ideas that were on the page. And then one thing led to another, and the idea of just doing it solely based on Google AdWords didn't really pan out. There's just the cost effectiveness just isn't there. At the time, I think when Rob probably wrote his book and Tim, wrote his book as well, you could buy clicks for a nickel or a quarter, 50 cents. And now it's just not, it's still possible for some keywords. But for someone just getting started who's not, really good, with AdWords and that kind of stuff, it just is not a very cost-effective strategy to get started. And in addition to, Google's not a huge fan of it's not necessarily bait and switch, but they're not a big fan of the whole do advertising solely just to get people kind of essentially on an email list.
Right. Yeah,
It's
I've actually had a
something.
campaign stopped for that reason before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I mean that's it in a in a nutshell. It was we knew we were going to do something, and and so we kind of just started there.
Nice. So in the first few weeks, the first couple months, what did you guys do to get your early customers? What was the
Eggs.
scraping and clawing that you did?
Yeah, yeah, it really was. It's it's funny. I mean, so we advocate a lot about marketing early, getting your ideas out there, and that kind of. So we're both big proponents of that mindset of don't build it and assume they'll come. But even us, building a product to help you do that, and knowing that we didn't do enough of it ourselves, and so so we launched to a mailing list of 200 people, 300 people, or whatever. And we're both, I think, smart enough to know that we weren't going to launch and then all of a sudden that people are going to be breaking down the doors to give us money. But you kind of hope for there's more. Once it's real, once it's out there, you'll have you'll have more people, and it was painful at first. I remember over even up to 6 months in, 8 months in, thinking, all right, maybe this is gonna be a $500 a month side thing, and at least it's going to pay us a little bit, right? When we started Kickoff Labs, we both quit our full time job. We recently quit, decided to work together, and we just quit it some more times. And so we're 100% in. There was no. I mean, thankfully, we're both dual income, so we have both have wonderful wives who work and and that kind of stuff, and so we weren't completely out on a limb. But we both had walked away from a good company and good salaries, and we're 100% vested in the project. And so we kind of thought there would be more. And as I said, there was different times where we're like, all right, maybe it's gonna be a $500 a month thing, and it's all right. It'll pay a little bit, and I'll pay the bills, and we can move on to the next idea. And it's like, maybe it's only gonna be $1,000 or 2,000 or three, and it just kind of slowly kept growing. But there certainly was a lot of time in the beginning where we just kind of said, maybe it's just not going to, it's not going to go there. But yeah, I mean, we tried everything. We probably spent way too much time blogging early on. We probably don't spend enough time blogging today. But we did all those traditional, we're going to, tell you about our story. We're going to, do this, and we're going to be on Twitter, and we're going to be, that kind of stuff. But I mean, really, we tried everything we could, and that was beneficial because it helped us, find the things early. Anything that worked early on would certainly be, anything that helped, kind of early on when nobody knew about us is even more beneficial today as we're just, slowly. But again, things that didn't scale well, and so we would look for. I mean, if you want some ideas of things we tried, we would look for people talking about competitors or doing similar things to us on Twitter. And we never spammed anyone, so we never automated or wrote a tool. But if you talked about a competitor of ours or a similar product and said, I'm waiting in line for this, or I do that, or how come you guys just don't get back to me? And so we always took the time to write back to those people, and we look at their bio, we look at their Facebook pages, we look at their blogs and stuff, and we just try to write back something that was relevant to them. So it wasn't just, hey, you're frustrated with XYZ, try Kickoff Labs. It was somebody would say they were frustrated with whatever the company is, and they went to Vanderbilt, and Josh went to Vanderbilt, and so we'd write back with, hey, fellow Vanderbilt alumni, build a solution, and we think we can help you out. And so we try to personalize it, on Twitter. I said the other thing that worked pretty well for us is that I think we got smart enough to realize that it wasn't, not that it wasn't worth the effort of writing blog posts. It's much more of a long tail, like a long tail kind of play where today people are searching and finding our blog posts and that kind of stuff. But we would go out. What I think is a smarter short term path is to find find already written blog posts that are relevant to your topic or to whatever you're doing, and kind of inject yourself in that conversation. Again, in a non-spamming way. So don't find every startup marketing blog post and just add a link to, hey, check out Kickoff Lab. But if there's something relative, not relative, something interesting we could add to that conversation, we try to do more of that, and that's something that helped us out a lot in the beginning. And even today, we still get links, whether it be 10, 20, 100. Per day that come back to these comments and discussions that we had now 2.5 years ago. And so, so they're not things that are highly scalable, But when you're first getting started and you're bootstrapped, they're the things you need to do.
Nice. So after you got to say 100 customers or something like that, what types of changes did you need to make? What kind of things did you look for that did start to scale for you?
I mean, we waited quite a while before we did, kind of traditional advertising. But we did, again, we've tried all different, ad networks. I'd say the thing that I think that helped us, probably get from say 100 customers to 1,000 customers. Like one of the big things we did is we got lucky enough to do an AppSumo campaign, and they just have, an incredibly, deep, large, kind of even back then, even 2 years ago now, it was about. They just have a huge mailing list, of people. So we reached out to that, and that worked. And then we did similar deals with a couple other smaller networks, and we tried some affiliate marketing, where we give discounts and kickbacks to other bloggers and that kind of stuff. And those things didn't work, nearly as well as the AppSumo thing. But again, it was. I wish I could say, that it was, it just became an automated system. But even today, it's still, a lot, it's still very scrappy, still, a lot of hustle. The thing we always prided ourselves on was just support and interacting with our customers. And so really the thing that helped us, by far the most is just, trying to get in touch with everybody who signs up. And so everybody, I mean, I would say, especially the first 1,000, 2,000 people who signed up, even for just like a free account, got a very, handwritten, I would say very personal, not very personal, but with a handwritten email, just asking for feedback and, what can we do to help you, and just really trying to go above and beyond. And that's the thing I think that's helped us the most probably is just trying to make ourselves a service and solution that other people want to recommend. And we've had people that have used this for 6 months and then moved on to a different idea or a different company. And I bet you we've had, 20, 50 people or so, who have closed their account, moved on, to another company, another idea or whatever, and then signed up again. And I just think that's a really, I don't know the exact numbers, but that's a really great sign that I think we're doing the right thing, by those customers when we get them. That they're walking away because we just weren't, there just wasn't a necessary solution at the time, and that they've come back for second or third opportunity. So.
Right. So how many customers do you guys have these days, roughly?
I mean, I guess on one hand, it varies how you define, customers. So we're at just about 24,000 or so people who have, signed up at least, for a free account and tried us out. I'm trying to think for paid customer. I don't think I want to say the exact number, but enough that it's made it. It's how Josh and I both make our full time kind of living based upon it. It's not Ferraris and a Ritz Carlton just yet, but but we're paying ourselves pretty good, and the business keeps growing. And so we're happy with the progress. But like I said, we've managed to get well over 20,000 people to sign up, which is good. And we do consider anyone who's ever signed up to be at least a potential customer,
Right.
and really tried to support all of them, everybody as equally as possible. So
Yeah. Very cool. Congrats to you guys.
thanks.
Um, so what kind of things do you do to focus on conversion right now?
So I mean the things we look for. So we look at things of just the number of people who sign up and then the number of people who verify their account. It's a simple statistic, but it's one of those things is you just drop off the funnel. Obviously, if you don't verify your account, you're probably not going
Right.
much further. We look at things and try to measure. Does somebody sign up? Do they create and publish a landing page? That's usually a pretty telltale sign that they're going to at least try to make the most of a trial, and they're and they're getting the best out of it. And so we've tried to adjust not necessarily a strategy, but just the experience of just making it really easy, that first 5 minute experience. So you sign up, you put your email address in, you sign up, and then taking you right to a screen of saying start right here. All you got to do is just enter a name and click go, and then you can click publish. We used to actually not even have the publish part. It was just automatically published, and we kind of found out that from some folks, it was more than we thought. That would happen initially. That people just didn't want it published until they were ready to see it. Kind of go live. But we focused on that, and then we tried to focus more on just education around just landing pages in general. Our early customer base has been pretty heavily in the startup space, which has been a lot of developers, a lot less, not as many, or what's the best way of saying, just people who are more technical and less marketing savvy. And so we've done we kind of took a step back and we built a course called Landing Pages 107.com. And so now when somebody signs up, we use that as a way of kind of getting people both on the Kickoff Labs, but people who might find us directly without going to Landing Pages 107 route, offer an opportunity for them to sign up for that as part of our regular sign up process. And that's a kind of a standard, if you ever seen like a drip email education campaign. And so they'll get an email roughly every 2 or 3 days over the course of a month, just educating them on things that they could and should be doing with their landing page, not necessarily just a kickoff landing page, just any landing page. And at the end, there's a sale over the last email or two that says, hey, you can do all these things with Kickoff Labs too. But just educating them on the things that they could and should be doing to be successful. Because the reality is, if somebody creates a landing page and gets even just 25 signups or whatever, they're much more likely to upgrade and be a customer for a while than someone who publishes, the crickets. And we still get that every once in a while where someone's like, I've published a landing page and no one signed up, and it's like, well, who have you told, or how have you ever? I haven't told anybody. And so,
right.
It is a chicken and egg type scenario. So,
what about the customers that you have that don't, or the signups you have that don't necessarily publish a page? Do you have a life cycle email that goes out to them that encourages them to do that?
Yes, yeah. So we do send one or two emails. So we send when you first create a page, we'll send an email to you like a day or so later that just lists here's the 10 things you should be doing with a Kickoff Labs landing page. And it's pretty cool. We've got good feedback on it. It's like a list of 10 things, and we'll scratch out the ones that you've already done. So it's like you've wired up your own domain. That's good. You've change the title. We do as part of the product. We do kind of the full email life cycle for you. So when someone signs up, we'll send a thank you email or an autoresponder to them. And so one of the things is to make sure you edit it. All the stuff. The idea is that when you create a landing page, you don't have to edit anything if you don't want to. If you put in the title, right, it just be very very generic. So it's Scott's website, and so all the stuff will say Scott's website, and it'll be very generic, non-gender specific, just very kind of easy going. But just to remind them, you want to do your domain and edit your email. And did you upload a logo? Did you set a background image? And that kind of stuff. So we've gotten good feedback on that. And then we send out 1 or 2 emails. Essentially, the first one usually highlights kind of what our own experience was. So when I talked about in the beginning that even us building a landing page platform, social everything. We do enough of that ourselves. Just kind of telling the story. It's a legitimate kind of real story of how we didn't do enough of that, and just kind of saying again similar to what I said, where we're like, crap, we've quit jobs and we've kids to feed and and mortgage payments to make and that kind of stuff, and the business isn't growing at the rate we want it to, and we'd have done things a little differently. Maybe they'd be different now, and just kind of highlighting to people that they might want to consider the same. And then there's educational things kind of built into product throughout as far as how to set up your domain and that kind of stuff. And we try to point those things out to people as well. So I think there's another email with like top 3 things that you should be doing with landing pages and that stuff. So I said all told, I think there's just 2 emails we send out to people, and then there's the landing page 107 course where they can get 10, but they gotta opt in to that a bit more. So
right, cool. What about retention-wise? Have you guys started to seriously look at retention?
Yeah, so one of so just by the very nature of kind of who we've targeted at first, right? we're a startup, and and thinking about startups, and that even for the blog post that pretty early on of why you shouldn't target startups, or why startups are bad, not bad customers as bad people, right? But they're kind of make or break. And for us, from our customers' perspective, right, they either were successful and closed their page, or they weren't successful, and then they eventually closed it anyway. So we've tried to do things. The thing we've tried to focus on more, not necessarily in retention, is just making ourselves a more viable, long-term solution. So like once you get past the launch page, or you already have an IT, you have an IT department and a dev team, and you have other traction, other pages. So making it so that we're a relevant solution, regardless if we host your landing page or not. So those are things like integrating with Facebook better, integrating with solutions like MailChimp and Aweber. Zapier we've done as a more general play, kind of integration. Just having an API overall. We have a really great WordPress plugin now where where you can just kind of add us to any WordPress blog, and we'll live in your widget, in your sidebar. We'll do the banner thing across the top. We'll do the kind of splash screen where somebody comes to your website, and we'll overtake the entire page and say sign up, or you have to sign up to continue. And so for retention in that sense, those are the areas we've tried to focus more on. It's just making it so that once you become a customer and you've met your initial goal, whether that's an ad campaign that you're doing, launching a product. We've had people sell books, start SaaS companies and that kind of stuff. Just make it so that we're still a relevant player, or kind of partner moving forward. And for some folks, we've done some consulting on copy and that kind of stuff to kind of help us keep our foot in the door there a bit longer. But yeah, it's a learning. It's an area of learning. It's an area where probably the most focus of our time goes in, because the reality is, and I'm sure it's not just for us, but we would do much better if we kept more customers from 6 months to 12 months, and 12 months to 18 months.
Right.
We would probably just finding new customers. We would, if we'd never lost a paying customer, we would we'd be a much different, at least financially, company today. So.
Right. Do you survey or try to measure customer satisfaction in any way, whether formal or informal?
Yeah, we do it more informally. So we reach out to people, definitely after somebody downgrades or quits, and that kind of stuff. And then just as we look through, so if we decide to build a new, look back over support requests for people asking for similar things, and we'll reach out to those folks and try to get a better understanding, what they were looking for. We've done things where somebody will say, I need to cancel my account because you don't have feature A or B or whatever, and then we'll try to get that implemented for them. Not necessarily as a feature, but just as a one-off thing where we'll make a customization to their page or something like that. And then with that, use it as a good excuse for hopping on Skype or hopping on the phone, and talking to folks. We've had a support phone number from the very beginning, and from a pure support perspective, it's horrible, because it's kind of it's interruptions and that kind of stuff. But from a learning about your customers type perspective, it's been immensely invaluable, because you get the opportunity to talk with somebody, even with a simple question of how'd you find this. So it's not even I don't want to say we don't want to learn about what things are doing, but just early on it was how did you hear about this, and it was learning about how people were finding out about us. And so just really taking every opportunity we can to talk with people. We've done we do just a couple of months now where we'll do consulting engagements for people. We'll help them implement some third-party API or some JavaScript or some UI changes or whatever, and we do that at a pretty reasonable rate. I think it's at $200 or $250 or something like that. We'll do kind of like one-off consulting things or whatever. But the reason we do it for such a low price is because it gives us the opportunity to talk with people. and to not have it be, a survey per se, where kind of people are guarded with their questions and that kind of stuff. It's just like, well, what things are working for you, and what things could be better, and we just learn a lot, about our customers, that way. So,
Cool. Um, so a little about tools and what kinds of tools do you use to do these things for Kickoff Labs, and as a side, do you use Kickoff Labs for Kickoff Labs?
yeah, so a couple ways we use Kickoff Labs. So one of the things Kickoff Labs has built into it is based upon a user's email address, using some third-party services. We can tell you demographics about the user and location and stuff like that. And so even though we don't use the page per se, every time somebody signs up, we actually sign them up for a landing page. We just never email them or anything, from that landing page. So that way, we can get all that data, and interesting stats, about the user base. And like I said, we use the biggest way we use Kickoff Labs itself is for Landing Pages 107, which is our course for learning more, about landing pages. We thought about building another product called Sift Social, and so for a while we were using Kickoff Labs to collect emails, about that. I thought about building another product called Answer Later, and so I have so both Josh and I have a series of pages that we use ourselves, for official business. Probably just like three or four things we've done it with, but I think Josh has even used it to try to sell a car. At one point, I think he was selling a car of his or his wife's, and I think he had built a page around it. You can do things like where you just remove the sign up form, and it becomes a one page
Right.
website. We actually have one of our landing page themes. I think it's called 5 Pages, and it's kind of just like an inline 5 web pages within one web page, and you click and it kind of opens and closes type stuff. And so you can do all sorts of interesting quick and dirty things with that. But then for other tools we use, so the biggest tool we use consistently today is called Get Satisfaction for support. And so we tried. I don't want to say we tried all the tools, because there's just so many of them out there. But we've been pretty happy with Get Satisfaction for most of the last 2 years, for support. I'm sure we use tons and tons of tools. I don't know if there's any specific areas of tools you're interested in, but for working with our customers, I'm sure that's the biggest tool we use day in and day out, as our support tool. So.
What kind of data do you track for following your conversion and retention numbers?
So we just look at how many days it takes you to get through the funnel, where you came in, from the funnel. Was it a landing page? Was it a Google ad? Was it someplace else? Which version of the page we're always I'd say 95% of the time we're testing or testing something different on the homepage, whether it be.
So what do you
uh,
use for tracking some of that data and doing the A/B tests?
Yeah, so we do everything through Kissmetrics. So we pump all of our data, just about everything we do, we pump through Kissmetrics. And we've been, very happy, kind of with it. But we use our own, I'd say lightweight, but it's hacky and kind of crappy way of doing A/B testing ourselves. But it works and it's simple, and so we're a Rails-based app, and so it just switches between views as far as what we A/B test or ABC test, because you can do more than two. And so we swap through that, and then we just look at kind of what you signed up with, and all that stuff gets pumped back through Kissmetrics. And so with every piece of data we have there, we can kind of slice and dice and look at things in a variety of ways. But I said that the biggest things we look for is where you came from. So what sources are working for us, to find customers. How long did it take you to sign up and upgrade? Did you keep your account? What plan did you sign up for? Right. So two sources, they might drive the same amount of traffic, but if one drives more people to our business plan versus our starter plan, that's obviously an area we probably want to invest more in. And then we just kind of look at the metrics as far as After you've done that, what you're doing with the product, like how many signups are you generating, the number of pages. Because the reality, at least for us, is the more successful our customers are, the longer they stay. They stay around, and so
Right.
we're both kind people, so we want people to be successful anyway. But it's in our own best interest to figure out how we can make people more successful, all along the way. So.
Do you know offhand if there's a correlation between people that go through the landing pages 107 and people that have more success with the product?
No, I mean the number I know is we looked at what it costs us, the build the course, and we did all the articles and stuff. And so I just know it easily paid for itself within like the first 2 weeks,
Right.
and we built it 6 months ago and haven't really had to touch it in that regard. So no, we haven't really looked at it that way. It's more a matter of we're still a two-person bootstrapped company, and so it's kind of measuring where we can't go back in time. So it's more measuring where we cost effective when we made our investments. And the good news is once those things are in place, then they pay for themselves. Like Josh spends, I don't think he spends as much. We used to spend a crazy amount of time on Quora, which I could just never convince myself to do. But we were able to. I think he had in his slides at a microconf. It said something like $40,000 in revenue or something that had come from questions answered, and links clicked on, from Quora. And I'm sure it's a lot more money, kind of now. But just being able to measure and go, okay, well, you didn't spend that many, he didn't spend that many hours, or whether it was 100 hours or 20, whatever it was. That time, kind of paid for itself. And again, it gets back to that long tail thing. Like, can you stick around enough, for those, kind of long tail solutions to actually start paying for themselves, and making themselves, kind of rewarding. So, I guess, yes and no. I mean, we do measure, but it's more a matter of, we just measure, was our investment worth it? And there's been things we've done that probably haven't been that worth it. So.
Nice. So what about as far as landing pages themselves go? Do you have a couple of top tips for us to keep in mind?
Yeah, sure. So the biggest, I mean, I would say that the absolute biggest one is, absolute two biggest ones is one, and I think people get tripped up on. It's not just landing pages, it's like home pages, kind of in general. Is you need to state the benefit to the end user. So it can't be, hey, I'm launching. You see a lot. I'm launching this new business, and whether it's good, bad, or whatever, be the first to sign up, or be the first in line, or be the get in early, and it's like, well, what's the reason for that? Like, why should I do it? And there's easy solutions to that, right? It's like sign up today, and when we launch, you get 20% off, right? And you're at least playing on the idea resonates with them a little bit. There's some type of incentive. But the people that are the most successful with it will really explain, what's the benefit the end user gets. I can save you 10 hours a day, 20 hours a day. I can cut this expense in half. I can do, whatever it is. And then I think that the second thing people get, don't do wrong, but overthink is what data to ask for. Really just getting, and we started with it for the long we only let you ask for the number of people who won't fill out a form with two questions on it is significantly higher than a form with just email. And then with the ability to just take an email address. Now, even without our service, there's a variety of ways you can take an email address, and you can find out all sorts of information out of a person, their location. You can even find their name, gender, age. There's services out there that will tell you just like socioeconomic stuff, like does this person, and they don't know the data for everybody, but does this person have good credit? Is this person married? Is this person, there's all sorts of stuff. It's both. It's scary, but it's also interesting. How much stuff you can tie back to just person's email address. And so we always caution with asking for 50 pieces of data. And we've seen people, they have these big, long, drawn out forms, and I need their phone number, and the phone number needs to be verified, or whatever. And there's some, especially like hiring. Things where just having an email address, you're not going to be able to close a $100,000 deal. or sell something for $100,000 usually. But those, that's kind of few and far between. Even then, with an email address, you can write to the person, and if they write back, chances are, they're that much more. The third thing, we follow up as soon as possible. So that's why we have the kind of autoresponder kind of built right into the product. Someone's found you. They've probably found you because somebody else recommended you. So it's kind of like two touches. They've seen your page, they like your idea, they sign up. Make sure you follow up with them as soon as possible. There's nothing worse than you sign up for a service and then 3 months later you get an email from them, introducing themselves or trying to tell you a little bit more about it. And it's like, well, what did I sign up for? And
Right.
people just don't remember. And so it's just taking action as quickly as possible or as soon as you can. So
Cool.
those would be my my big things.
So what are you guys focused on now as far as Kickoff Labs goes?
Just trying to make things better each day. So so today we're still working on making the designer experience better, making it. What's the best way to say it? Of making it so that you need to be less technical to build more rewarding pages. Doing more of that, trying to do more with end-to-end email marketing. So probably eventually get into things like drip email campaigns and improving our own newsletter support and that kind of stuff. So we're just really looking at what the pain points of our customers are and just figuring out how we can make things, how we can make it even better for them. So.
Nice.
Lame answer, I know, but it really is just about that incremental improvement and just trying to keep moving things forward. So,
Any final words of advice for anybody setting out on this journey?
So to me, the biggest thing, and it was interesting. So I'd gone to both MicroConf and BaconConf, which is, and they're different, but they're both conferences geared towards bootstrapped small companies. And the two things that really jumped out at me is one, how many people try to set out on this alone. And I know that's especially part of MicroConf. That was it's part of Rob saying that he's one person running these bunch of small business or whatever. But just for me, just having two people in the company, just having somebody you can always bounce an idea off. Somebody always telling you just shut up and ship it. It's good enough, and we've both done that to each other, where it's like someone's just trying to make something perfect, and it's like just gotta get out the door. It's better than what it was yesterday. Keep going. So that's a big recommendation to me is to try to find a co-founder. Not this. You see people, they're looking for a business co-founder, or a technical co-founder, or whatever, but just finding someone you actually can work with and long term. It also makes it so you can do things like go on vacation and not worry about is the company imploding or stuff kind of behind you. And then the second one is just the persistence part of it. I really think that's the secret to any successful bootstrap startup or any startup. It's just sticking with it. There's just so few companies that are around for a month and have make $100 million or even come remotely close to being profitable or paying a substantial amount of money. It's really just sticking with it for a year or two. I know it's hard to figure out when to stick with it when you might be bleeding money or losing money. And I think it's a fine art there. But that was my big feedback to people at MicroConf. Like, well, how did you get to where you are or whatever it is? And really it's just persistence. I think a lot of people give up too early. I was kind of shocked by the number of people who had started 4 or 5, maybe even 6 different ventures in the last year. Right? They built something for a month or two. In reality, I mean, they probably didn't do enough early testing, or they probably built something that just bored them to tears. They're just more interested in it. I think there's a fine line between just targeting something that there's money in there, and then just going after kind of your passion, right? It's got to be something you're interested in to make you stick with it, but it also has to be something where somebody is willing to pay for some type of solution. And I think people, they do the polar ends of that. They take the 37 signals approach where they just scratch their own itch, or they take, I don't have a good example, but where they're like, all right, these people spend lots of money on this, and I'm going to do it, even though I have no interest whatsoever, kind of in that area. And so for us, it's been there's a lot of gamesmanship, and I think game theory kind of behind the marketing aspects of it and stuff. And so even though Josh and I aren't marketers through and through and don't have I don't want to say love for it, but it's not the thing that drives us, but kind of the game of it of how can we be more successful at it? How can we make our customers more successful at it? Is kind of driven us to kind of stick with it and to keep growing it. But I really do think people do give up probably a little bit too soon. Although I was at Starbucks yesterday and some guy had lost $50,000 in his business in the last year. And just in talking with him, I just wanted to kind of shake him and be like, you need to go work for somebody because he was so far, out of touch with it. So there is, a certain part to it where you just got to give up and move on. But I think it was worth building. You got to stick with it for 2, 3, maybe 6 months before you start doing it. And I just really think a lot of people just give up after that, that 2 months and just like, oh, no one's paid me yet. And just move on, or I'm too far away from paying. I mean, one of the more interesting in today's market thing that we did is we didn't really have a beta. So we built our first version. We let our friends try it out for a week or two, and we put it out there and said people should sign up and pay us. We didn't do it where it was in beta for 6 months and it was free and that kind of stuff. We just said, we built something functional that we think works, we think will save you time. We didn't charge as much for it as we do today. But we still said you should pay us for it, and it got us some early revenue early on. It helped identify who was really a customer versus somebody who was just trying the product out. So
Right. Cool. That's really good advice. I think if I had to pick one thing, it would probably be persistence. So it's good to hear, and it's good.
It was shocking how many people really had just just not giving up, but just moved on.
Yeah, I think a common problem there is something Rob Walling talks about sometimes. Is it just the longer projects, like say they built it for 4 or 5 months and then spent a couple months trying to get someone to pay them, and you just the longer you go on that calendar without like real progress, without feeling like other people are interested in what you're doing or willing to pay for what you're doing. The less likely I think you are to stick it out. So it's another reason to market early.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks a lot, Scott. It was good talking with you, and good luck with Kickoff Labs this year.
Cool. And good luck with. So I sent you an email. So is this